Alright guys, so episode 7 of Daredevil Born Again is now streaming on Disney Plus, and we're going to do my episode review, reaction, and recap for this episode. So without further ado, let's get into the episode review. Let's go. Daredevil Born Again episode 7 is titled Art for Art's Sake, and we got a very interesting episode for us this week. I can't wait to see the finale, by the way, that follows this up. But first things first, let's go ahead and dive into all of the story details and break down this episode. So we're going to start with Wilson Fisk discovering that Daredevil has returned, kind of putting him in an anxious state, not really sure how to feel about that news after he learns that Daredevil did stop Muse from killing yet another victim. Now, I love the way D'Onofrio portrayed this with Fisk's role here, you know, that slightly anxious, slightly ready for combat type of feel that he got. And then we're going to move on now to Vanessa, of course, Wilson Fisk's wife. Vanessa, inside of this episode, we find her meeting with the mob, almost seemingly behind Wilson Fisk's back. She seems to be, at least in this very moment, wanting to get back into the game. And yeah, of course, she misses her position being on top of the food chain, on top of the empire. Now we move on to Matt Murdock's therapist girlfriend, okay? Now his therapist girlfriend ends up getting this weird patient that she's been seeing for some time now. This guy looks off, he's giving like shooter vibes, if you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to say the word before, but we come to learn that this patient's name is Bastion. Now Bastion is also Muse inside of this series, okay? So while all of this is going on, the police end up getting a lead on Bastion's whereabouts because one of his sketches, like he likes to sketch his victims before he goes out and chooses them, okay? So they find these sketches in his lair. They end up seeing the therapist's face on the sketch along with Daredevil. He ends up, you know, revisiting the lair and finding this sketch. So simultaneously, Daredevil and the police are both trying to reach the therapist before she gets taken out by Muse and becomes, you know, his final victim. Now, what I do like that they set up here inside of this episode was they let you know his background, a little bit of Muse's background, where he grew up, how he was taking Taekwondo lessons from like the best Taekwondo master in the world, at least one of the best in the world. Those are all great details there. So they give you a little bit of background as to how he's so well versed in combat, at least to the level that he is. Of course, he's not on Daredevil's level or anyone on that level. Now, Kingpin also ends up getting the location. So like I said, we have everyone to one point, that being the therapist's office. Kingpin decides, hey, we're going to send in my brand new formed SWAT team that he created, you know, this special force team of all the bad apples, which we discussed in the last episode review. And of course, as soon as we hear those sirens outside, Muse starts getting crazy, okay? He starts turning into who he really is. He reveals his true identity to the therapist, which she kind of already, you know, had an idea about. He puts on the mask. He cuts her open, starts taking some of her blood, okay? And while all of this is happening, we hear the sirens outside. The building is surrounded, but also Daredevil has arrived. He bursts through the window. We get Daredevil versus Muse, which what I found interesting about this was this is all taking place in broad daylight. Normally you see him in the Daredevil outfit when it's not broad daylight, when it's like nighttime. Sort of like when you would see Batman, right? Batman's not really going out in the day. Of course, in the Dark Knight trilogy, we did see a little bit of that. But Daredevil is doing investigative work during the day. I thought that was very interesting. He dives into this building during the day. Of course, time is of the essence. Muse is attacking during the day, so Daredevil needs to be present during the day, and he ends up saving the therapist's life. Now we get Daredevil versus Muse, a fantastic showdown, or should I say a fantastic beatdown, because Daredevil put the beats on this boy, okay? He beat the hell out of him. That Taekwondo background didn't really come into effect, whereas, you know, in a real mixed martial arts competition, it wouldn't have anyway. Let's be honest about that. And after Muse is, of course, defeated, the therapist girlfriend, I'm sorry I keep calling her that. I can't remember her full name, okay? The therapist girlfriend is left in like critical condition because she's been bleeding out the whole time during this showdown. Daredevil stabilizes her and leaves the room before the task force gets there. And when the task force arrives, Kingpin arrives with them, and we see the therapist wake up, so she's okay. You know, she's going to live to see another day inside Daredevil Born Again. Fisk gets word from the therapist that Daredevil was the one that saved her, and we see him think for a second. You know, he's debating on whether or not he should be really upset about this, but then he decides, hey, we're just gonna take all the credit for this and use this for part of my political agenda. Now we see Fisk address the news. He's holding up Muse's mask, Muse's head, you could say, and he takes all the credit for stopping this serial killer. And now Mayor Fisk is, even more on top of New York City. A genius political move of Fisk to just take all Daredevil's credit for all of his hard work and discovery and investigative work. And yeah, great job on Daredevil's part, by the way, stopping and saving his therapist girlfriend, hitting real close to home with the serial killer there. And we did have a little end scene that I wanted to address. We see Vanessa meeting with, one of the mob bosses again, and it appears that she is setting up Kingpin. She pretty much drops his location to this mob guy. The mob guy heads to where Kingpin is having dinner, in an empty restaurant by himself like the Kingpin does. And of course, that dude comes there strapped, ready to take Kingpin out. Now, that of course doesn't happen. As soon as he walks in, he gets head tapped by Kingpin's security guard. I thought that was a genius scene. Kingpin just continues eating, doesn't even look behind him, doesn't move. He doesn't move at all, okay? This guy is aura farming inside this scene. He just keeps eating his, his spaghetti, his pasta, his whatever, and he's like, hey, thank you for taking him out. Make sure you ask Vanessa if she wants me to bring some dinner home for her, okay? And that's where our episode concludes. Now, I do want to say, do we know whether or not Vanessa is setting up Kingpin here? It appears, one, that she was setting him up throughout this episode, but you can also look at it from another lens where, no, she was setting up the mob guy, and she sent the mob guy there after Kingpin to die, knowing that, Kingpin would be ready and kind of giving him the heads up on that. We never see her give Kingpin the heads up, though, so we really don't know whether Vanessa's playing both sides, whether she's on Kingpin's side and gave him that info, or whether she actually just gave the drop on him and Kingpin was just ready, okay? So Vanessa, there's something about Vanessa that we don't fully know about yet, that we have to see in the future to come. Let me know your thoughts on the whole Vanessa storyline, whether she was in the right or wrong in this episode, okay? I'm curious as to how other people are going to view this, but with that being said, that concludes our recap for episode 7, Art for Art's Sake. I thought it was a pretty good episode. Let's go ahead and give my official rating for episode 7. If I had to rate episode 7, Art for Art's Sake, I would give this episode a 8.5 out of 10. It gets the 8.5 out of 10. I thought it was a pretty good episode, but a little lackluster compared to episode 6 and especially episode 5. I thought those episodes were definitely superior and the best episodes that we've seen this season so far. Now, hopefully that's because in the finale, we're going to have, a huge, big payoff. I don't know what they're going to do with it. I'm thinking Daredevil versus Fisk because it just makes sense, but perhaps, they're saving that for season 2 and we end up getting something else here for this conclusion episode. I'm not really sure, but I would love to know your thoughts on episode 7 down in the comment section down below. Did you like or dislike this episode? Did you agree with my rating on the episode? If not, leave your own rating down below. I'd love to know that. And if you don't know what we do here on Demigod ENT, we do film and TV reactions and reviews. So if you're interested in any of this movie-based content, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Peace.